So let's just jump right in. Is the era of the coder king in Web3, is it officially over?
Wow, that's a provocative question to start with. But, it's aptly the right one to be asking.
Right, because for the last decade, the rule was so simple. If you wanted a job in crypto, you needed to speak the language of the machine.
Solidity, Rust, Python.
Exactly. If you couldn't audit a smart contract, you were basically just a tourist. But I've been looking at the data for 2026, and it feels like that whole script has just been shredded.
It has. The numbers we're looking at today, they don't just suggest a trend. It's more like a fundamental restructuring of the entire industry. The whole hierarchy is flipping.
Okay, let's unpack that, because if you're a listener who doesn't know how to code, this might be the best news you've heard all year. I want to anchor this with an analogy I found in the Beyond the Code report.
Oh, the aviation one.
Yes. It compares the crypto industry to the history of aviation.
It's a perfect comparison. I mean, the phases match up almost one-to-one.
Exactly. So think back to the Wright Brothers, the early days of flight. To get a plane off the ground, who's the most important person in the room?
The engineer, the mechanic.
It's the engineer. It's the daredevils who understand the raw physics of lift and drag. If you can't build the engine, you just don't have an industry. You don't have a product.
And in that phase, things like user experience didn't matter at all. The fact that the plane was loud and cold and, frankly, dangerous, that wasn't the point.
The miracle was that it flew at all.
That was the last decade of crypto.
But fast forward to today. If you want to run a successful airline, let's say Delta or Emirates, you can't just have mechanics.
No, if you only had mechanics, you'd have a hangar full of working planes and absolutely zero passengers.
Right. You need logisticians for the bags. You need lawyers for the airspace treaties, marketing teams to sell the tickets. You need flight attendants to, keep people from opening the emergency exit mid-flight.
And that's exactly where we are in Web3 in 2026. The engine, the blockchain itself, it's largely been built. The plane flies. It's more secure, it's faster, it's scalable.
So the challenge isn't just keeping it in the air anymore.
No, it's building a global transportation network. And while technical specialists are still the foundation, I mean, we absolutely still need them to maintain the engines, mass adoption is now being driven by people who can explain the concepts, build connections, and navigate the whole legal and social landscape.
So our mission for this deep dive is to look at this massive shift in the job market. We're talking about a world where the non-technical majority is, well, actually taking over.
And I don't think taking over is too strong a word. The statistics are, they're staggering.
They really are. So let's jump straight into the big shift. I was reading the Bitvocation January 2026 report, and they dropped a number that just made me do a double take.
Oh, I think I know the one you mean.
The share of non-technical roles in the market has hit 74%.
74%. Just let that sink in for a second.
I mean, that's 3 out of every 4 job openings in Web3 right now.
For roles that do not require you to write a single line of code. It's wild.
So if I walk into a Web3 company today, most of the people in the room aren't debugging software. They're doing, what? Communication, management, law.
Precisely. It's sales, it's HR, it's design. But I think it's important to contrast this with the other side of the coin, because it really explains why this is happening. The Coincub report paints a very, very crowded picture for the engineers.
So the coder kings are losing their crowns.
Well, they're facing a bottleneck. The technical market has become hyper-competitive. We're seeing up to 450 candidates apply for a single engineering position.
450? Wait a minute. So the days of just putting blockchain developer on your LinkedIn and getting 5 job offers before lunch, those are gone.
For the most part, yes. Unless you're in that top 1% of developers, it's a grind. The market has matured. It's become less experimental.
It was R&D before, a big science fair.
Exactly. In the early 2020s, VCs were throwing cash at anyone who could code a smart contract, just to see what was even possible. Now, the focus has shifted to long-term building.
So the infrastructure's there.
Right. The code is being written. Now, companies need people to actually run the businesses that sit on top of that code. They don't need another protocol. They need a user base.
But I want to play devil's advocate here. Does this mean the industry is shrinking? Because usually when I hear we don't need as many engineers, I think layoffs.
No. And that's the really important nuance here. The industry is booming. The same report says vacancies overall increased by 45% over the past year.
Okay, so the pie's getting bigger.
Significantly bigger.
Yeah.
But the type of slice that's in demand has changed flavor completely.
So if the engineers are fighting over that 26% of the market, let's look at where the growth is. One area that stood out to me was customer support. And be honest, when I say that, most people think of what? A call center?
Right. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Exactly. But the report frames it as something totally different. It's evolved.
It has. In traditional tech, support is often about troubleshooting a glitch. My screen is frozen. In Web3, it's become a strategic function. It's really sitting at the intersection of technical assistance and psychology.
Psychology. That seems like a stretch.
Is it?
Yeah.
Think about the nature of this industry. It's financial, it's volatile, and unlike a bank, there is no FDIC insurance if you mess something up.
Okay.
So the report mentions that support specialists are the absolute front line during market volatility. Imagine Bitcoin drops to that $60,000 to $66,000 range, and you have users watching their life savings shrink in real time.
Right. They're not calling to ask, how do I reset my password? They're asking, is my money safe? Is this exchange solvent? What is happening?
Exactly. They are panicking. And the company needs people who can provide reassurance, who can explain complex security stuff simply, and just maintain trust. That requires a huge amount of emotional intelligence, EQ.
You can't automate empathy during a financial crisis.
You really can't. If I'm scared about my savings, I don't want to talk to a chatbot. I want a human who sounds like they know what they're doing.
And it seems like this has birthed a whole new role, the customer success manager.
Yes, this is sort of the white glove version of support. These aren't reactive roles where you wait for a ticket to come in. These are professionals guiding major clients, like institutional investors, and trading them on security best practices. It's all proactive relationship management.
So the takeaway is that companies now value empathy just as much as technical knowledge. Because if you lose the user's trust, the tech doesn't matter.
Trust is the industry's #1 priority in 2026, and that bleeds right into the next huge growth area. Marketing and education.
Oh, absolutely. The Coincub report said demand for marketing and educational leaders has tripled. Tripled. But again, let's get into the why. This isn't just about running Facebook ads, is it?
Definitely not. Traditional Web2 marketing, buy ads, get clicks, it just doesn't work that well in crypto. This is about education. Why do we need educators? Because the tech is still confusing for the average person.
So companies are desperate for people to translate.
They're desperate for content and education leads. People who can take a white paper that looks like a physics dissertation and turn it into docs that a normal human can actually understand.
I love that idea. If you're a school teacher listening to this, you're already a content lead. You take complex ideas and make them digestible. The skill set is identical.
That's a brilliant connection. And it's true. And then you have the community managers. A report calls them the heart of the project.
I feel like community manager is a title that gets looked down on sometimes. People think it's just chatting on Discord all day.
Which is a massive underestimation.
Yeah?
Have you ever tried to manage a Discord server with 50,000 people during a bull run?
No, and I don't want to.
It's not moderation. It's air traffic control during a hurricane. In Web3, your community isn't just an audience. They are often stakeholders. They hold the token. They have voting rights.
So if the community turns on you, the project can literally die.
It's culture building, conflict resolution. It's basically political campaigning.
Okay, so we've got the people keeping users calm and the people bringing them in. Let's talk about the people who determine if the user can even use the product, the designers. I was looking at the salary data from Well-Found, and my jaw hit the floor. A UI/UX designer in Web3 is looking at a salary between, $75,000 and $210,000.
It's lucrative for a reason. Design in Web3 is incredibly difficult, and it's very high stakes.
Why is it harder than designing a regular banking app? A button is a button, isn't it?
You'd think, but the stakes are final. If you design a bad interface for a banking app and a user sends $500 to the wrong person, what happens?
They call the bank reverses it, no big deal.
Exactly. In crypto, there is no undo button on the blockchain. If you send your Bitcoin to the wrong address because the font was too small or a button was confusing,
It's just gone poof.
forever. So the design burden is massive. You're not just designing for delight, you're designing for safety. There's this concept called wallet-aware design.
Wallet aware. What does that mean? Does the app know I'm broke?
Not quite. It means the interface adapts to what the user needs and what they've done before. It tries to anticipate what they're doing to prevent errors. It's about reducing the cognitive load.
So the designer is like a safety guardrail.
Exactly. And the product managers are the architects of those rails. The Crypto Forem analysis calls them the vital link. They stand between the engineers, who are deep in the code, and the users. They're constantly translating technical possibilities into human needs.
We can build this, but should we?
And how do we make it usable for my grandmother? That's the real question.
And speaking of what we can build, I love that these reports are showing these entirely new, kind of weird job titles that just didn't exist a few years ago, like DAO Treasury Manager.
Yes, 5 years ago, that sounded like science fiction. But now you have these decentralized communities managing massive budgets, millions of dollars. They need specialists who can manage those funds using transparent tools like Gnosis Safe.
For those who don't know, what is Gnosis Safe?
Think of it like a digital bank vault that needs multiple keys to open. So if a DAO wants to spend $10,000 on marketing, one person can't just send the money. You might need 5 out of 8 board members to digitally sign the transaction. A DAO treasury manager orchestrates all of that.
It's basically a CFO for a decentralized organization and governance leads, people whose entire job is just structuring how people vote.
It's political science applied to code.
Yeah.
How do you facilitate decentralized decision-making without it becoming just a chaotic mess? Governance leads design the voting structures, the proposal processes. That's a full-time job now.
It really feels like the industry is adulting. It's growing up. And nothing says growing up like bringing in the lawyers.
That is the inevitable next step, isn't it? The whole Wild West era is over. The Genius Act in the U.S. really changed the game.
We hear about the Genius Act a lot. In simple terms, why did a piece of legislation create so many jobs?
Well, for a long time, the regulatory uncertainty just kept a lot of serious professionals away. Companies didn't know if they were breaking the law because the laws for crypto didn't really exist yet. The Genius Act provided that clarity, especially in asset classification and taxes.
And clarity drives demand for compliance.
Exactly. So suddenly you don't just need a lawyer to defend you in court. You need one to help you build the business correctly from day one, to build compliance structures with the regulators.
And the salaries reflect that.
Oh, yeah. Salaries for top specialists in crypto law are now comparable to senior technical roles. If you're a lawyer who understands blockchain, you're essentially writing your own ticket right now.
And it's not just the people. The tools are adulting, too. I saw a stat that nearly 20% of Web3 company invoices in 2025 were paid in stablecoins.
This is so significant. It sounds like a boring accounting stat, but what it proves is utility. Blockchain isn't just the product they're selling anymore. It's the financial tool the teams are using to operate.
Paying vendors, paying staff, all on-chain.
It's faster, it's borderless, it's efficient, it just works.
So we know what the jobs are: support, marketing, legal. But where are they? Is everyone just moving to Silicon Valley?
Actually, no. Silicon Valley is losing its monopoly. The remote culture in Web3 is still incredibly strong. Bitvocation showed that 45% of all vacancies were offered as remote.
Nearly half. That's huge compared to traditional tech, where they're trying to drag everyone back to the office.
It is. But if you are looking for a physical hub, all eyes are on Asia. The Singapore market showed 158% growth in vacancies.
158%. That's an explosion.
It's a massive boom. Singapore has created a very friendly regulatory environment, and the talent is just flocking there.
Yeah.
But again, because of the remote nature of the work, this is accessible to global talent. You could be in Ohio working for a top company in Singapore.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me. We've talked about the what and the where. I want to talk about the who. Who is actually getting hired? Because there's a huge cultural shift happening.
You're talking about the inclusivity stats.
Yes. The number of women hired for Web3 positions increased by 137.5% in 2024. That is a staggering jump.
It is, and it's a very healthy correction. We have to be honest, for a long time, crypto was rightly criticized for being a bro culture. It was insular, aggressive, and very male-dominated.
So this shift we're seeing, it's not just about diversity quotas.
Not at all. It's about the changing nature of the work. As the roles shift from pure coding to communication, management, and empathy, it naturally opens the door to a much wider talent pool.
It brings in different perspectives.
Exactly. It brings what the report calls community empathy to the table. It stabilizes the market, it makes the industry more welcoming, and frankly, it just makes for better business. Diverse teams see risks that homogeneous teams completely miss.
And there's another barrier breaking down: the college degree. The Bitvocation report calls it the death of the degree.
This is maybe the main trend of 2026. Employers are moving away from formal credentials. They don't really care if you have a master's from an Ivy League school if you don't understand the ecosystem.
So what do they value? If I don't send a diploma, what am I sending?
Proof of work.
And we don't mean the Bitcoin mining algorithm here.
No. Though the concept is similar. We mean literal proof of your work. Real experience in the community. Have you moderated a Discord? Have you written the governance proposal? Have you helped launch a project?
So your resume is your on-chain history, your community reputation?
Absolutely. Web3 recruiters are key here. They aren't just checking boxes for credentials. They're looking for culture fit. Can this person adapt these ideas into products people actually love? If you ran a successful newsletter about crypto, that's worth more than a marketing degree from 2015.
I love that. It just democratizes the whole playing field. It means you can hustle your way in. Okay, let's step back, look at the big picture. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
We've gone from the coder king to a world where, 74% of jobs are non-technical. We've seen the rise of the customer success manager acting as a financial therapist.
We've seen the wallet-aware designer preventing financial ruin, the lawyers and governance leads turning chaos into structure.
It's a total maturation of the ecosystem. We've moved from a niche of engineers in a garage to a global economy. And a global economy needs lawyers, psychologists, designers, community builders.
It really does.
And for you, the listener, our learner, this is the key takeaway. If you've been sitting on the sidelines thinking, well, I don't know how to code in Rust, so I can't work in Web3, that excuse. It's officially expired.
It really is. Your current skills, if you're a teacher, a nurse, a project manager, a writer, those skills are so transferable. The industry is starving for soft skills. It's starving for people who can communicate, organize, and empathize.
The door is wide open. You just have to walk through it.
And bring your proof of work with you.
Exactly. I want to leave everyone with one final thought. We started with that aviation analogy. The engineers built the plane, but the pilots and the crew run the airline.
Right.
If the code is just the engine and the people are the airline, are we approaching a future where understanding crypto matters less than simply understanding people?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? If the tech becomes so good that it's invisible, then the human connection is the only thing left.
Something to think about. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.